Israeli airstrikes have killed nearly 100 people in northern Gaza, according to Hamas-run civil defence teams. It comes after more than 120 Palestinians were killed yesterday in the south of the territory. The UN's human rights chief says that Israel's actions are tantamount to ethnic cleansing. Palestinians in Beit Lahia and Jabalia have described a large-scale assault on the ground and from the air and sea in the early hours of this morning. The Israeli military said its troops were dismantling what it called terrorist infrastructure. It's not clear whether this operation marks the start of the major new offensive promised by Israel's Prime Minister, with no sign of progress by negotiating teams in Qatar. Israel doesn't allow independent access to Gaza for international journalists, including the BBC. Lucy Williamson reports now from Jerusalem.
Israel says its target is terrorist infrastructure. This is Beit Lahia, after 19 months of war. Hard to find the scars of this morning's assault on a town already in ruins. Residents know where to look for survivors, just not for answers. The heavy assault involved tanks, they say, and armoured vehicles around a shelter for displaced people. We went to the south, we were targeted in the south, Abu Omar said. We came to Gaza City, we were targeted there. Where should we go? For God's sake, have mercy on us. The floor of the nearby Indonesian hospital, a makeshift treatment room, a makeshift morgue. These children now facing life without their mother. Where are the Hamas negotiators while this happens to my mum, he cries. After many months of war, doctors say this morning's assault felt different.
So the last night, it's like the beginning 2 months in this aggression and in this war.
Dr. Salah lost 2 nieces and a nephew in the attacks, 2 of their bodies unreachable under the rubble. They were 8 and 10 years old.
When I see my family is totally destroyed, so there is one person has to be controlled, because all of them is crying and shouting, all of them. But after that, I am go to my office and crying alone.
Israel is calling up forces for a major new assault on Gaza, saying this time the army will hold the territory it takes.
As a result of the October 7 massacre, and as a result of the fact that Hamas is still continuing to hold 58 hostages, Israel is forced to carry on fighting. It is not Israel's fault. We didn't ask for this war. We didn't initiate this war. We don't want it to continue on. This is the fault of Hamas. This is the fault of anyone who supports Hamas.
Beit Lahia was emptying again today, but with no easy way out of Gaza. Doctors say that some here are losing the will to leave or to live. We'll die wherever we go, people tell them, so why not die here? Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, President Trump said for the first time today that a lot of people in Gaza are starving, and he vowed that the US would take care of the situation. He was speaking after finishing a tour of the Middle East, during which he chose not to visit Israel. So does this signal a shift in support away from Israel? Ros Atkins has more.
World leaders see the same stories from Gaza that we do. Today, it's reports by the Hamas-run civil defence agency that another 100 people have been killed by Israeli attacks in the last 24 hours. It's charities warning that young children are now dying from hunger and disease. And it's accounts such as this, sent to the BBC by a British doctor working in Gaza.
I'm sure it won't be long until we get to a situation where we're seeing pictures of them that image what we saw in the early 80s with the famine in Ethiopia.
Despite its total blockade of Gaza, Israel says there's no shortage of food there and that the real crisis is Hamas looting and selling aid. But there's mounting evidence that there are shortages. A recent UN-backed report said Gaza's whole population, over 2 million people, is at critical risk of famine. And this week, the UN's humanitarian chief made this plea to world leaders.
I ask you to reflect for a moment on what action we will tell future generations we each took to stop the 21st century atrocity to which we bear daily witness in Gaza.
Leaders have been responding to what they and we are seeing. This week, Spain's Prime Minister called Israel a genocidal state, something that Israel disputes. France's President Macron called the Gaza blockade shameful, to which Israel accused him of siding with a terrorist organisation. For his part, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said the situation in Gaza is intolerable, calling for aid to be brought in and hostages to be released. And then there's Israel's most important ally, America. Talking to the BBC, its top diplomat again called on Hamas to surrender, then added, "We're not immune to the suffering of the people of Gaza." And President Trump has said this too.
We're looking at Gaza, and we got to get that taken care of. A lot of people are starving. There's a lot of bad things going on.
Mr. Trump also reiterated that hostages held by Hamas must be released. Now, words don't always translate into actions, but language does matter. It can point to shifts of policies or approach. And this week, there's some evidence that Israel's actions in Gaza are testing even its staunchest allies.